In 2002, an unknown disease hit the Asian region, affecting in particularly Hong Kong and mainland China. It started in Guangdong of China in November 2002 and spread to 29 countries and 3 regions by August 2003, causing a total of 8,422 cases and 916 deaths. This did not only affect Hong Kong's healthcare, but also its economy. SARS first broke out in 2002 in Foshan, which is near Guangzhou, in the Chinese province of Guangdong. China's Ministry of Health declared that the illness was so-called under control, and did not disclose any information whether the disease is highly contagious and even fatal. The virus made its way to other parts of the Pearl River Delta by February 2003, and then Hong Kong was alerted by the news that people across the border were stocking up on Chinese herbs and medicines, and boiling vinegar as a folk remedy to ward off the deadly unknown illness. Because the world was kept in the dark about the seriousness of the outbreak in Guangdong, Hong Kong was unprepared when SARS first appeared. That is why no isolation measures were adopted. Study shows that besides close person-to-person contact, SARS might have been spreading by other environmental means. For example, the virus can survive for more than 24 hours on surface of objects such as doorknobs. Fear of the SARS virus spread throughout the whole city. Large amounts of face masks were sold, and public places were disinfected several times a day. People washed their hands more frequently and avoided crowded places. Restaurants, shops, cinemas and other entertainment venues were deserted, and many businesses suffered severe losses of income. Finally, all schools were closed to limit the spread of the virus. All household contacts of confirmed or suspected SARS patients were required to remain isolated in their 4 homes for monitoring and treatment, up to a maximum of 10 days. According to the SARS Expert Committee 2003, at the end of the outbreak, it turned out that 34 of the total 493 isolated households came down with SARS. In the following figure, research shows that fatality rates were significantly higher for the elderly population, particularly older patients with a history of chronic diseases. Hong Kong's economy has faced an unfavorable external environment. Households were struggling to pay their mortgage debts after the housing market bubble burst. Domestic consumption was shrinking and Hong Kong's unemployment rate, record level, exceeding 7% by the end of 2002. In the beginning of 2003, signs of economic recovery appeared. Exports from China picked up very strongly, and cargo movement in Hong Kong ports and airports showed good growth. Nevertheless, the outbreak of SARS hit Hong Kong at a very bad time. The World Health Organization issued advisory on 2nd of April, urging people to postpone non-essential trips to Hong Kong and Guangdong. This warning devastated travel and tourism in the Asian region, in particularly Hong Kong. According to the World Bank in 2003, it predicted that the output growth in East Asia would fall by almost 1% in 2003 to 5%. Then on the 9th of April 2003, the government announced that the original forecast of 3% real growth rate in GDP would not be met. The decline in local consumer spending stemmed from fear that the disease had spread to the community at large. The drop in demand rippled through the whole economy. It affected other sectors, put further downward pressure on the price levels, and worsened the unemployment problem. According to the March retail sales figure, shown in the following table, there was a 6.1% drop from the previous year, which is estimated to be 14.17 billion Hong Kong dollars. However, retail sales began to recover steadily after May 2003 as the SARS outbreak receded and reached their pre-outbreak levels by the end of July. As for Hong Kong's tourism, during the second half of March 2003, visitors' arrivals dropped by 10.4% compared with the arrivals in the previous year, and airlines had to cancel flights, as shown in the following figure. Then from June on, visitors' arrivals started to recover and by August they had returned to their original levels. Drop in the average spending by each overnight tourist which summed to 850,000 visitors in April 2003, translates to a reduction of 4.2 billion Hong Kong dollars of spending in the domestic consumption market. Regarding the impact on exports and re-exports of goods, the following figure of the cross-border truck traffic shows no obvious decrease between March and September 2003. The trade figures for export of goods continued to grow robustly between January and June 2003, and no major production disruptions were reported in the factories in the Pearl River Delta, which are mostly owned by a Hong Kong-based manufacturing and trading company. The combined effects of the drop in domestic consumption and the decrease in tourist spending worsened what was already a weak labor market in Hong Kong. The following figure shows that unemployment and underemployment rates rose throughout the SARS outbreak. It was in July that the underemployment rate started to increase, and the unemployment rate showed signs of falling in August. Due to the outbreak of SARS, we can conclude that the economic impacts on consumption, tourism, and travel-related services turned out to be relatively short-lived. The stock market's overall response mirrored these developments well. Most of the short-term negative effects were concentrated in sectors were severely hit by the negative demand shock. However, there was no anecdotal evidence to indicate that SARS had negative effects on either domestic or foreign investment. The fact that the disease raged on for several months without attracting worldwide attention reveals the damaging effects of information control and relatively closed society that do not have a free press. This important aspect shows that the free flow of information and reactions that followed play an important role in stopping the spread of the disease. The possibility that the virus will return cannot be ruled out. Just recently on December 3rd, it was confirmed that a new strain of the H7N9 bird flu is spreading amongst Hong Kong, also beyond mainland China and Taiwan. However, China and Hong Kong will be much better prepared, due to previous experience, especially with the knowledge that the virus is not airborne, and can therefore be contained if quarantine measures are quickly and immediately implemented.